Good evening, you're watching Primetime News live here on Newsfirst. We're coming to you direct from our Newsfirst Centre in Colombo. A very good evening, I'm Mahina Bongzo.
Good evening, I'm Shahan Jarampati. We start off the look at tonight's headlines.
The corrupt in the government will be removed. A statement from the President. Vele Sudha sentenced to death. DNA obtained from the body of Seya Sandevmi matches that of Kundea's brother. Court permits to detain and interrogate Pillayan until the 4th of November.
The tenure of the local government institutions which have not been dissolved as yet have been extended to the 31st of December. The tenure of these respective local government institutions are to end on the 16th and 31st of October. The tenure of 21 local government institutions, including the Colombo Municipal Council, are to end on the 16th, while the tenure of 2 other local government institutions are to end on the 31st of October. Among these local government institutions are 17 municipal councils.
Gampala Vidanage Samantha Kumara, alias Vele Sudha, was sentenced to death by the Colombo High Court today. The sentence was given after he was found guilty on the charges of possession of heroin and peddling drugs.
The case was filed against Vele Sudha for the possession of 7.05 grams of pure heroin and peddling of drugs in Mount Lavinia. Colombo High Court Judge Preeti Padman Surasena announced the verdict today. The Attorney General has filed a case for the possession of 7.05 grams of pure heroin. The other charge is peddling of 7.05 grams of heroin. According to the provisions in the Act, he was handed the maximum punishment, which is the death penalty, as the charges against him were proven beyond reasonable doubt. Another investigation is underway over the importation of heroin to the country. However, the investigations are yet to conclude. A separate case has been filed against Vele Sudha, his wife and a relative for amassing properties amounting to 170 million rupees through the drug trade. Samantha Kumara, alias Vele Sudha, who was arrested in another country, brought back to the country. CID questions former MP Duminda Silva for over 6 hours based on the revelations made by Vele Sudha. 26 tractors suspected to have been used to smuggle drugs discovered from Sinharamulla Kalaniya based on the revelations made by Vele Sudha. Court permits to detain and interrogate Vele Sudha under detention orders until the 23rd of March. Another drug baron who peddled drugs into the country arrested based on the revelations made by Vele Sudha. An association of Vele Sudha identified as Siddiq arrested in Pakistan. Vele Sudha remanded. Today, Vele Sudha sentenced to death.
In a story that has gripped the entire nation, now the results of the DNA test are out on the case of Seya Sandevmi's murder. The Minuwangoda magistrate today announced that the DNA samples obtained from Saman Jalat, the brother of Kundea, had matched with the DNA obtained from the body of Seya Sandevmi. The announcement was made when the case was taken up today after considering a motion moved by the Criminal Investigations Department.
The DNA report on the Seya Sandevmi homicide was presented to the magistrate today by the CID. The CID documenting the report in court said that the DNA of the victim's father was obtained in order to compile a comprehensive report on the homicide.
The CID presented to court the DNA report of Saman Jayalat, the first suspect in the Seya Sandevmi homicide. The judge decided that the DNA samples of Saman Jayalat had matched with the samples obtained from the body of the victim. Seya Sandevmi disappears last seen while asleep at home. Body of Seya Sandevmi found in a canal 200 meters away from her residence. 17-year-old school student and a 35-year-old arrested over the murder. Suspects remanded. Dinesh Priyashanta alias Kondea arrested over the Seya Sademi homicide. 17-year-old boy and 35-year-old man who were arrested released. Brother of Kondea arrested over the Seya Sademi homicide. Court says that the DNA of Kondea and the DNA from the crime scene does not match. Court permits father of Seya Sademi to be subjected to a DNA test. Today, court says that the DNA matches that of Kondea's brother.
Today, evidence was recorded for the police investigation over the complaint which was filed by the 17-year-old schoolboy and the 35-year-old man who arrested over Seya Sadeumi's homicide and later acquitted.
A special investigation was launched over a complaint made to the IGP by the 17-year-old boy and 35-year-old man stating that they were assaulted while in police custody. Statements were recorded from the mother of the school student and 3 persons who were in the custody of the Kottadeniyawa police on the said date. The statements were recorded at the office of the Senior Superintendent of Police for Gampaha. These statements were recorded in the presence of ASP Chandana Kuritwakku.
Court today permitted the CID to detain and interrogate the former Chief Minister of the Eastern Province, Sivaloganathan Chandrakanthan alias Pillian. Colombo Chief Magistrate Gihan Pilipitiya today ordered that the suspect be detained and interrogated until the 4th of November.
Sivaloganathan Chandrakanthan alias Pillian was arrested over the murder of former TNA MP, the late Joseph Pararajasingham. Senior DIG of the Criminal Investigations Department, DWRD Sinivaratna, producing the suspect in court today, requested that the CID requires to detain the suspect for 90 days and carry out the investigations. The magistrate ordered that the suspect must be produced in court on the 4th of November. An order was issued to detain him until the 4th of November. The detention order is yet to be issued. The CID had informed the magistrate that they have made a request from the Ministry of Defence to obtain a detention order.
The World Humanitarian Summit Global Consultation got underway in Geneva, Switzerland today and will conclude on the 16th of this month. The Capital Maharaj Organization Limited was invited by the United Nations Office for the coordination of humanitarian affairs to be represented at the global consultation.
Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues and friends. Good morning and welcome to the World Humanitarian Summit's Global Consultation right here in the city of humanitarianism, Geneva.
The World Humanitarian Summit Global Consultation was hosted by Siobhan Daniel, the Group Director of the Capital Maharaja Organization Limited.
You know, I wish that you could stand here and see what I see right now. What do I see? I see an incredible group of people with the power and influence to change the destinies of the people they represent, the people you represent. I see Vietnam, Zambia, the Bahamas, Canada. I see all of you standing here today. And as you entered these halls, you made a commitment to the people that you left behind to change their lives. Yes, change the world is a cliche, isn't it? But just like the Apple commercial says, those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who usually do.
This year alone, over 100 million people are in need of humanitarian assistance and protection. If that were a country, it would be the 12th largest in the world. Every day, thousands of men and women dedicate themselves to helping communities cope with and indeed recover from the impacts of wars, disasters, displacement, hunger and disease. Humanitarian action is reaching more people in more places than ever before. Yet the number of people in need continues to escalate. If we do not act now, projections indicate that the future could be even worse. As populations rise, along with extreme poverty, growing inequality and rapid unplanned urbanization, more people are at risk from natural hazards. Climate change is also causing increasing humanitarian stress. and threats to cause massive internal displacement and cross-border movement, the absence of political solutions is leading to more protracted crises and unprecedented levels of displacement.
We have to catch up. We have to rethink humanitarian action. Millions of people, just since the launch of this initiative, were displaced. Millions of people lost whatever they had. The humanitarian needs increased sharply. People in line of duty gave their life. Despite tremendous efforts, we have witnessed only limited success in resolving underlying causes, and very often humanitarian action was sort of substitute to political action.
We have summarized the outcomes and aspirations emerging from the consultation process in 5 key areas, as mentioned by our Under-Secretary General earlier: dignity, safety, resilience, partnership, and finance. These are interdependent and overlapping. One alone cannot deliver the change that we need, but taken together, they can form the building blocks for a new vision for humanitarian action. Allow me to highlight some cross-cutting issues that I believe are the seeds of some of the real transformational changes that are needed. First, the consultations have called for a radical change in how we think about accountability. Accountability for what? Accountability for people's dignity. We have heard time and time again that humanitarian action must stop being used as a substitute for political solutions.
6 of the detainees who are under custody for suspected links with the LTTE and were staging a hunger strike were admitted to hospital today. Commissioner General of Prisons Rohana Pushpakumara said that the hunger strike launched by the detainees is still ongoing.
Group of detainees at the Colombo New Magazine prison, Anuradhapura, Batiklo and Jaffna prisons, who were arrested for having suspected links with the LTTE, commenced a hunger strike the day before yesterday. The detainees are demanding for their release. Doctors look into their health condition thrice a day. I reported this matter to the President's office as well as our ministry on a regular basis. Meanwhile, a group including relatives of the detainees staged a demonstration opposite the Fort Railway Station, demanding that their loved ones be released without conditions.
We have been suffering for a long time. We are in a situation where we cannot speak out our problems, so we urge our relatives to be released. We have been suffering for a long time. We are in a situation where we cannot speak out our problems, so we urge that our relatives be released.
As the group marched to the President's office to hand over a petition signed by the relatives, the group was able to hand over their letter to an official of the President's office. Meanwhile, 23 suspects who have been under remand custody for 18 months for allegedly having links with the LTTE were produced before Colombo Additional Magistrate Aruni Artigala today. During the hearing, officers of the Terrorist Investigations Division noted that more investigation needs to be done on the matter, adding that they will hand over the details of the investigation to the Attorney General seeking advice. The magistrate said that she intends to notify and remind the Attorney General on the matter. The suspects were further remanded until the 28th of this month.
Now, furthermore, in response to an inquiry made by Newsfirst from the Minister of Justice, Vijaydas Rajpaksha, on the detainees in question, he said that these prisoners cannot be branded as political prisoners. Minister Rajpaksha went on to note that there are no such detainees held at prisons in Sri Lanka, adding that it is for the government to decide on whether or not the detainees who are currently staging a hunger strike should be released. Also making headlines this evening, President Maithripala Sirisena says that if any member of the government is found to be involved in fraud and corruption, they will be removed. The President made this statement while addressing a meeting at Temple Trees yesterday.
If there is anyone in the government who is involved in fraud or corruption, I am ready to take any decision needed to remove them for the sake of protecting the integrity of the government. I have absolutely no issue in doing so. As I said in the very beginning, I kindly expect the collective support of everyone to fulfill the common objectives of the people of this country.
A special meeting for university lecturers was held last evening with the objective of obtaining the contribution of experts for national development.
In your developing story tonight, views were expressed over the controversial situation surrounding Avangard.
A group of persons engaged in maritime security through international companies visited the Ministry of Defence and pointed out that they have lost their means of employment due to Rakna Arakshaka Lanka and Avangard. Over 800 persons have lost their jobs. These institutions want us to resign. We arrived here to register with Rakna Arakshaka Lanka. When we arrived, there is an issue because international companies do not wish to enter into agreements with this institution. The chairman of Avangard had issued letters dated 24th of July 2013 and 16th of August addressed to the local shipping agents and maritime security companies. It says that if they have directed Sri Lankans to any international institution under this subject, these Sri Lankans need to be brought back to the country with immediate effect. We are all Sri Lankans. However, we cannot board or disembark a vessel from the Galle harbour. The reason for this is a letter. When we attempt to board a vessel, they say that the names have not come through Rakna Arakshaka Lanka. Take account of the number of persons who board vessels from the Galle harbour. Around 200 vessels travel passing Sri Lanka. At present, Rakna Lanka is at the centre of massive fraud. The chairman of Rakna Lanka had abused his power and gone beyond his authority. He is a personal assistant of the former Secretary of Defence, Gotabaya Rajapaksa. He had gone beyond his authority and provided permission to certain persons to possess firearms in an illegal manner. That is the Avangard group. The chairman of Rakna Lanka had entered into agreements in an illegal manner. Why has he not been taken before a court of law as yet? Why hasn't the former Secretary of Defence, who indirectly aided and abetted, not presenting himself over the matter? The Attorney General is delaying the process. Why is not the AG taken into custody? It is unjust to assume that the opposition leader would intervene in this issue. There is a powerful government with two powerful political parties. They have around 200 seats in parliament. In this backdrop, what can an opposition leader with 14 MPs do? How did this vessel set course for Sudan? How can they purchase a T-56 rifle with $500 or 5,000 USD? How did that vessel travel under the Sri Lankan flag? Was the Navy informed of this? When we travel in the streets, the people question us, are these the thieves or are those the thieves? Journalists Faraz Shaukat Ali and Bandula Jayasekara discussed the matter on the Newsline program this morning.
Especially, I would really like my parliamentarian from wherever I live to get to Parliament and ask, for example, the minister in charge of the police is Tilak Marapana. I'd really like Mr. Marapana to make a statement within the confines of Parliament and with all the attendant privileges of making that statement there. But I'd really like him to say, look, these are the people who are now being investigated by the police, and I have at some point in time, I have represented them. So I'm going to be taking a back seat on these particular matters because I want to be shown to be, ethically independent.
I think that's the transparency we are all looking for.
I think if we could arrange for that particular minister and every minister actually to do that, Sri Lanka will create a new yardstick towards transparency, towards political transparency. I think really these opposition members need to do some real work.
Apart from the Sri Lanka police and the three armed forces, a third party was provided with automatic firearms for the first time in 1985 under the Ministry of Manpower Mobilization. The subject minister was Ranil Wickramasinghe, and secretary to the former president Lalit Weeratunga served as a secretary to the ministry. Under the Mobilization and Supplementary Forces Act No. 40 of 1985, the use of automatic firearms were handed over to two separate institutions. They were the National Armed Reserve and the National Auxiliary Force. What transpired was the establishment of an auxiliary force to the Sri Lanka Police and the three armed forces. Under this act, the National Cadet Corps and the Home Guard were established. During the 80s, the security of the country was distributed among three ministries. However, in 1989, then President Ranasinghe Premadasa merged all three ministries into the Ministry of Defence. Later, the National Armed Reserve and the National Auxiliary Force were disbanded under the directives of President Ranasinghe Premadasa. During that time, General Sepala Artigala served as the Secretary of Defence. In 1995, the Firearms Ordinance was updated, and in 1999, the Private Security Agencies Act was introduced. According to the Act, the private security agencies do not have the right to use automatic firearms, and to do so, they need to have special permission. Later, Ratna Arakshaka Lanka was established under the Ministry of Defence.
Police spokesperson ASP Ruwan Gunasekara a short while ago said that the investigations into the Avangard floating armory have been handed over to the Criminal Investigations Department. Just joined us, it's Action TV that is up next.
On Sunday, the 11th of October, Action TV made a revelation over the intervention of the Attorney General's Department in a case that is currently being taken up at the Gangodawila Magistrates Court in Nugegoda. The AG's department responded to the revelations that were made on Action TV in writing. A Deputy Solicitor General had signed the response on behalf of the Attorney General. The case in question is in relation to a motor accident that took place on the 17th of November 2011 in Ratanapitiya in Borlas Gamua. The accident claimed the life of one person. The police filed a case against the driver of the vehicle under 5 charges on the 2nd of June 2013. Action TV revealed on Sunday that after several hearings of the case, the Attorney General's Department had called for the files of this case from court. Action TV pointed out that the Attorney General had issued instructions to the police in relation to this incident. At a time when the police had not made a request and when the accused had not reported any facts to court, the AG instructs the police that the charge amounting to culpable homicide be dropped. However, in this letter, the AG's department says that it was first made aware of this case after representations were made on behalf of the accused sometime before June 2013. It goes on to note that whilst the AG's department was in the process of considering the matter and prior to having made any decision, further representations were received in July 2015 from the counsel of the accused. It is evident that even before the case in question was filed and several occasions after the case was filed and taken up in court, the accused had sought the assistance from the AG's department. The letter by the AG's department says that it took into consideration the representations made on behalf of the accused and the intention of the victim's daughter not to pursue criminal action, and adds that the police was instructed to frame charges only under the provisions of the Motor Traffic Act. This letter by the Attorney General's Department goes on to say that the AG's department had not interfered in the course of justice.
Addressing a media briefing in Jaffna yesterday, TNA parliamentarian M.A. Sumandiran expressed the following views.
The Constitution of Sri Lanka does not indicate that you have to be a Sri Lankan national to be a judge of the country. Even the Prime Minister had reiterated this on numerous occasions. There are foreigners, British nationals, who are serving as judges in the country, and they know that they could be cited as an example. As far as I know, there is no legal provision in the Constitution banning foreign judges to serve in the country. But if the Supreme Court is to implement such a ban, then the legal provisions in the Constitution should be amended accordingly. The government of Sri Lanka must fulfill the promises it made, but they cannot evade from it, saying that there are obstructions.
Welcome back. The island-wide awareness campaign For Our Children, organized by Newsfirst, which aims at ensuring the safety of the children, was active in the town of Anuradhapura and Bandarawela today. The program, which is conducted with the assistance of the Ministry of Justice, Peace and Prison Reforms, received a warm welcome by the public today as well.
This could be your child. Let's protect them for the happiness of our children. The anguish of two parents in Meentale. The Program for Our Children campaign, which is spreading the message for the importance of protecting the children, commenced from Meentale today. The support provided by the clergy and well-wishers adds great encouragement for the success of this program. Three-wheel drivers joined in the procession. The police assisted our teams on the ground to carry out the campaign successfully.
The service rendered by the Sirsa Media Network is commendable. We must all take up this responsibility. New and adequate laws must be implemented to punish the wrongdoers so that everyone will be protected by the law. This is a responsibility we have in our hands. The procession, which arrived in Meentale Public Fair, educated the public regarding the protection of children. The teachers and the students of the Meentale Mahavidyalaya also joined in the campaign. The Newsfirst team that arrived in Anuradhapura was assisted by police officers, state institutions, civil organizations, as well as many enthusiastic individuals of the public who were eager to spread the message of protecting children. The program, which focuses on the happiness of the child, commenced in Bandarawela. Many individuals who identified the importance of protecting children volunteered to help promote this message across the town of Bandarawela. The team, which arrived in Haputale, then engaged in awareness programs with the help received by the police officials of the area. Another awareness campaign was held at the Tamil Mahavidyalaya in Nayabadda. The team, which then arrived in Meerabadda, educated the public by reminding them about the instant helpline 1929, which can be used to report child abuse. The campaign, which focuses on protecting the happiness of the child, will initiate awareness campaigns in areas surrounding Dambulla, Uvaparnagama and in the district of Nuwara tomorrow. This could be your child. Let's protect them for the happiness of our children.
Speaking at a media briefing held in Colombo today, entrepreneur Cornel Pereira expressed his views on media freedom and the upcoming budget.
The media is powerful. The media influences government. The media can also influence the budget. And that is one of the reasons I'm here, because now the situation is different. You have the freedom. Budget is for the benefit of everybody and to better or at least sustain the economy. That is the responsibility of the people who make the budget.
Well, that's it from all of us here at the MTV News Desk for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mahina Bongzel.
And I'm Shahan Jarampati. Good night.